This is Andy C from Ram Records and you're watching Drum and Bass Arena. I started playing the drums when I was about 5. Just so I like eating things and playing around and stuff, and always been into rhythms and stuff, but musically didn't really get into music until kind of like I was about 11 or 12, and literally the first tune that ever really got under my skin was Voodoo Ray, which I've said loads of times, and my sister played it to me. I was making tunes before I was a DJ. I was actually making tunes for about a good 2 years before I'd even had a go on a pair of decks. But literally, like, I met Red One good 12 years ago now, probably longer than that, at work experience. He was like, oh, I'm putting on parties, I've got a rave going on in Bishopsgate, it's called Imagination. I'm like, yeah, you're doing like, he's like, yeah, it's my first party, why don't you come down? So like, I went down to it and I was like, oh, I make tunes. And so I went down to his party and I remember standing there and just seeing the guys, all the guys from Syndicate FM, back in the day, like DAZ, Daz, MATT, Just Jones, MB, all guys that are now making drum and bass, but back then it was like my first experience of watching a DJ. Everything that was going on that night was really, really special, and I rung Red One up on Monday. I was like, man, I've got to get a pair of decks, bro, do you know what I mean? I've got about 150 quid saved up, it's all I've got, what can I do with that, you know? And he's like, you need to get, well, I don't know, I guess we'll go down the shop, the local disco shop, you know, and I bought a pair of SoundLab DLP ones, belt drives, and a proper old school HW International mixer, I remember, and getting it home, and like literally, I was just hooked, mate. I used to live in my bedroom day and night practicing on them decks, man. It was just like, once I switched them on, it was like literally the whole day could go by and I wouldn't even know, man. The first rave was like 91. I've been making tunes since like 1990. Started Ram Records in 92. And me and Ant had been working together for years. The Valley of Shadows is actually the third release, no, the fourth release on Ram 4. So, you know, it was like, I guess that was a 2-year period of like doing, I used to do like pirate radio, Syndicate FM, used to do loads of local parties in the area, slammers. Yeah, so it was like a, you know, gradual build up and all that until, and keep continually making the tunes. And releasing loads of different tunes on other labels, but it wasn't until, you know, started Ram. Sour Mash EP was the first release. It took me 6 months to make, and I just literally wanted to put it out as a white label. And the whole way it came about was, okay, so how do you get a white label pressed? All right, so loads of research, ringing PR records in Wimbledon was where we pressed it, ringing up the, you know, finding out about how to do that, and it's like, okay, you can get record labels with printing on, put on the records, how hard's that, you know? So it's like, literally, when we found out that that was it, it's like, oh, we can start a record label then. You know what I mean? And what should we call it? And my sister's like, Ram sounds good, you're an Aries, you know? It's like, it all fits in. And she hand drew the first logo for me, and that's what went on the record. I guess the turning point was definitely Valley of the Shadows. If you could, you know, call it a turning point, when people were suddenly like, okay, who's these guys? Do you know what I mean? That started, it was a B-side. You know, and we only pressed a couple of thousand for the first run, and it literally just came out and just went absolutely crazy. And I remember going out to all the clubs. I weren't even old enough to get in the clubs, you know what I mean? But I was getting a cup, going out and meeting people, and they was like, Valley of the Shadows, you never made that. I was like, yeah, seriously. And it sort of like, they was like, okay, well maybe, you know, give the guy a chance. Red One had sent out some tapes that I'd done, like mixtapes, to Elevation, who was doing a club at the time down Club Dada on Shaftesbury Avenue, and also to all the other promoters at the time, all the big promoters, but Elevation were the ones that got back. And they was a massive rave promoter at the time, so for them to ring back and say like, yeah, okay, that's a good tape, we're going to give you a booking. And they give me like 1 till 2 in the morning or something like that on with MCMC, I remember. It was like my first gig in Shaftesbury Avenue, and it was just, you know what I mean? crazy experience. Redbone's car broke down on the way down there, so we had to end up getting a night bus down there and a night bus home with all my records, but it was just one of them things, man. It was just completely mind-blowing. We met Sting from Telepathy, who was starting a club at the Wax Club, starting a night, and it was originally going to be garage and or house at the time, and like he said, oh, I'm going to try this. There's this new thing, jungle or something. I'm going to try, you know, I'm going to put on like a jungle night, Telepathy. I'm going to call it, because he'd put on like legendary rave called Telepathy, like Marshgate Lane, all the old classic raves, and he was like, I'm going to call it Club Telepathy. Why don't you come down? You can play a few records. And I was like, yeah, cool. Went down in the first week, and I was down there every week for the next 2 years. It's like, you're going out, you're in a club, or you're in a party, or a big rave, or wherever it is you're out to have fun, you know, have a good time, man. It's not something that, it's kind of like, oh, I need to be a DJ, so I'm going to learn how to mix. It's like, it was a complete passion, do you know what I mean? I spent hours and hours and hours on the decks for years. So just being lucky enough to jump and do what I do, you know what I mean? And like that people have been into what I'm doing. Another big highlight as well is like the Ram vibe with all the crew, you know what I mean? Like Ant Miles, you know, being there from day one, Shimon, Moving Fusion, Red One, having all the crew there, you know what I mean, and the crew that we've all grown up together, and we've all kind of learnt the ropes together, and you know, and been going through it. You know, that's special as well, man. Yeah, definitely. I think like we must be one of the only musics in the world that the DJs just play an hour. Or in the UK, or 45 minutes to an hour, there's so much more to express than an hour's worth of music. And there's so much more music out there that's worth playing. And you know what it's like, if you've got a load of DJs on in the same, you know, in the night, say 8 DJs over the 8 hours, you're gonna hear that certain tunes are gonna get played more than once, or well more than once, you know what I mean? Well, Ant's been a friend of the family for ages, and he came round. Like, I had a Atari ST and a little sampler, and he came round, and like he was just like, and he was doing music as well in the studio, and he was like, wow, that sounds different. Why don't you come round? You know, pop round. We'll just have a laugh and all that, and see what happens. And that was in like '91. It's 2003, and we're still like, you know, still going strong, man. You know, because Ant's an amazing producer. He's been doing stuff for years, do you know what I mean? Shimon's, like I say, me and Shimon have been going out to parties, raving together since we was 15, 16. So that's, you know, that's where that link is, you know. And I think in like '96, Shim's like, I really fancy having a go at making some tunes, you know. I really want to get a set up. What, you know. And he's always taking his laptop when he's touring abroad, coming back with new plugins and new tunes on the go, man, do you know what I mean? We have always like get loads and loads of demos through the post at RAM every week, you know, and like every fortnight, 3 weeks, we kind of listen, you know, have a big listening time, sit down and hear it, or take it out in the car when I'm on the road or something like that. And that's kind of specifically why, you know, we've started them other labels, Frequency and Highlight. It's specifically to bring in new people. And, you know, there's so many, like I was saying, there's so many people making tunes and DJing and doing all, it's just need a break, you know? So it is literally a case of like, every tune that's been on Frequency or on Highlight has come from a demo through the post. We've signed tunes from Finland, from France, from the north of England, the south of England, from America, and all that. And it's, you know, it's great because, like I say, there's so many tunes. All right, maybe not for RAM, but like there's, you know, give people, you know, a break. So there's definitely, you know, it's definitely an opportunity to get like new blood through. You know what I mean, and introduce new people to the scene. there was a certain amount of media interest in '95, and that died off, and everyone's proclaiming drum and bass is dead, whatnot. But that's just the media aspect of it. Drum and bass has never been a scene that's needed any media hype. Essentially, there's, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people around the world that love drum and bass. You know, they don't need any magazine to tell them drum and bass is cool. You know, drum and bass is this, drum and bass is that. You should be into this. They just are. You know what I mean? The internet has expanded drum and bass massively. Do you know what I mean? It's reached it into corners of the world where there's, you know, there'd never been a club or you know, that played drum and bass, or a music shop that sold drum and bass and all that. And I think, like, it's fantastic. You know what I mean? There's a whole, you know, online community of people that over the past few years have hooked up and linked up, and, you know, even taken drum and bass a step further. I think it's a great outlet for new people to come in and, like, say, yo, check my tune, you know what I mean? Check my tune out, download it here, you know, check this out. It brings through new, fresh ideas, and I think it's great. Well, I just think D&B is set to expand and grow even bigger, you know what I mean? I think with, like, every new generation of people that come into it, they're getting excited by the same things that, you know, we all got excited by. It's just such a worldwide thing now. Everywhere you go, all around the world, there's scenes, there's, you know, crews, there's DJs, producers, promoters, club nights, you know, it's going off all around the world.